After being delayed a year ago, Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp is finally here, updating the two classic GBA games with modern graphics and new quality of life improvements like fast forwarding turns. But was it worth the extended wait, or is Advance Wars just more advanced bores? As someone with limited experience with the series, jumping into Advance Wars felt daunting. Sure, I was expecting a tough turn-based strategy game, and that is exactly what I got. But it does a great job at introducing the new units and different types of terrain. The early missions would introduce a unit to me, explain its strengths and weaknesses, and then show me exactly how to use them, and I never felt overwhelmed thanks to the pacing. I felt the game properly equipped me with the tools I needed in order to manage my squad, and I had a blast learning the intricacies of combat. At first, I was rushing in headfirst trying to destroy the enemy as quickly as possible, but the game taught me to take my time and that it's okay to sit back and take a defensive position sometimes. And I love the change of pace. Typically, I'm pretty proactive in turn-based strategy games, but Advance Wars forced me to change my playstyle. The two major gameplay additions in fast-forwarding gameplay and resetting a turn helped massively to make this a more streamlined experience for a new player. There are three main commanding officers in Advance Wars 1 campaign: Andy, Max and Sammy. Each one comes packing its own advantages and disadvantages, and their own CO ability. Andy is an all-rounder and his CO power heals his units, whereas Max excels in head-to-head combat, with his units dealing more damage. Each mission has an assigned CO, and at different points you can choose between 3 missions, each one specific to the CO. When it came to the abilities, I found Andy's healing pretty useless actually, and when given the option I always chose Max because his ability buffed the damage of the units and it suited my playstyle better. Advance Wars 1's mission structure is more basic than the second game, with most win conditions being to kill all the enemy units or capture their main base. Although one of the more interesting ones involved having to capture a certain amount of bases before the enemy does, and those were my favourites as I had to map out the best strategy to take over the map, which made for a nice challenge while adding to the intensity. Some missions have set units whereas others have bases that you use to build units, and I much preferred the fixed unit missions as they felt more deliberate, more like a chess match, where some of the unit building base missions dragged on a bit too long because both the enemy and myself kept spawning new units rather than learning how to make the best of the units I was given. Also, the final mission kind of came out of nowhere, and the game didn't prepare me well enough for its more demanding nature. In this mission you can choose between all the COs, and narratively it makes sense, but it feels like there should have been a few similar missions so you can get your feet wet before bombarding you with it. Thankfully, the second game's campaign is much improved. First, you play as every CO from the first game, which is amazing, as I love the characters. Even the new COs fit so well, especially the new CO Colin, who's a child in a commander's uniform, which I found hilarious. On top of that, the mission structure is night and day different. You can still just capture the enemy base or destroy all of their units, but there are other unique win conditions too, like touching a base at the top of the map using trees and fog of war to avoid cannons, or destroying a pipeline that was supplying the enemy's base. This was much needed as otherwise the games felt pretty similar. There's one new unit, the Neo Tank, that I honestly didn't use all too much, and then the COs have a new Super CO ability that is just a souped up version of their ability and takes longer to charge. My primary issue with the second game's campaign are the villains. They weren't as interesting as the more diverse cast in the first game, and as a result I wasn't invested in the story the same way I was in Advance Wars 1. But the story isn't all too important, so it didn't detract too much. The story surprised me though. Both Advance Wars 1 and 2 have a colourful cast of characters, and if you had told me these were all from some obscure Cartoon Network cartoon, I would believe you. Typically I'm the type to skip dialogue and gun for the next mission, but in Reboot Camp I enjoyed the back and forth between all the COs, and it's only bolstered by the absolutely stunning 2D art that elevates the game. Just look at this intro cutscene. There is so much love poured into it. Now the voice acting left a bit to be desired. Some of the first lines are voice acted, but then the rest of the dialogue isn't, and I would have loved to see it fully voice acted because it put a nice bow on these already great characters.
I'm up. What's the drill this time?
This package is undoubtedly a good value, with 2 games for the price of 1, but playing both back to back as I did definitely exposed some weaknesses. Hands down, Advance Wars 2's campaign is so much better. The mission structure made for a way more engaging and diverse experience, but on the other hand there was only one new unit and the only other additions are Super CO powers and the silos, so they felt very similar, and I think playing both back to back was a bit too much due to their similarities. The first 10 or so missions of Advance War 2 felt like a slog, as the levels were comically easy in comparison to the ending of Advance Wars 1. On top of all that, you have to beat the campaign for Advance War 1 to unlock the second game, so you can't just skip straight to the second. Outside of the campaigns, there's a whole suite of stuff to do, like a versus mode that gives you more maps to play on either against your friends locally or the CPU. Then there's the war room, which has more missions where you battle against the CPU and try to get a high score. Next, the collection comes packing a multiplayer mode, which lets you battle against your friends online. The best part is the map editor. Here you can create your own maps and share them with your friends, which of course will add so much content to this game. You can build maps for up to 4 players at once, and they can be as large as 30 by 15, which gives you loads of room to build. I messed around with this for a bit, and it's well laid out and easy to use, even if I'm never really interested in making stuff in games myself. Unfortunately though, I haven't been able to test the online portion of this game, but by the looks of it, it seems to only work with your friends and has no matchmaking system, which is a shame. I doubt any of my friends will buy this game, so that means I won't be able to use the multiplayer, and I'd imagine that will be the same for many of you out there too. There's also a shop where you can buy maps and unlock COs for multiplayer, and then goodies like concept art and music. The game runs flawlessly, and I didn't encounter a single bug or glitch, which is always nice to report. And as I already stated, the 2D art is absolutely stunning, and I love it. However, the look of the map and in-game models will be quite divisive. The models resemble toys, and judging by how the maps look like game boards, it looks like the devs were going for this look, but I'm not a big fan of it. I would have preferred a more stylized, cartoony aesthetic than the look that they went for in this game. However, the music on the other hand was brilliant. Each CO has their own theme, and each one slaps, as the kids would say. Especially Grits. Just listen to this guitar. While I wasn't a big fan of the in-game models, the rest of the package looked and sounded so good. As a collection, there is so much content in Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. It brings 2 cult classics to the Switch with brand new graphics that I'm sure some people will love. The 2D art is gorgeous, the music has been stuck in my head since I started playing, and of course the map editor and online multiplayer will add a lot of replayability, but I still would have liked to see an online matchmaking system for people like me who don't have friends who will buy this game. Despite having issues with some repetitive missions in the first game, and not liking the villains in Advance Wars 2, I walk away happy that I've finally given this series a full look, rather than just playing it at a friend's house when I was young. And as a result, I liked Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp a lot. Thanks for watching. Check out that video on the left for more Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next video.